Hey everyone, and welcome back to Above the Tree Line, where we talk about your questions about faith, culture, Christianity, and at this point, pretty much anything
Pretty
goes.
much anything else.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we
Hi.
are here with our resident expert,
Hi, Lauren.
Senior Pastor Will Davis
The
Jr.
expert couldn't make it today, so I'm here.
You've been in ministry how many years now?
A lot.
A lot.
They're more dog years. They're dog years now. 712.
So we are starting to receive more questions kind of about the current climate in our nation and abroad. So I wanted to speak into this because it does touch on Christianity, and that is the topic of anti-Semitism. I want to start, I mean, we're seeing it all over the news, but before we dive into this, what is anti-Semitism?
It is just the belief that people of a Jewish nature are inherently evil, and that it's because of their inherent nature as evil, it is okay to treat them as such, to persecute them, to kill them, to want bad things for them. It's not new. It goes all the way back to biblical days, but it is inherently evil. Anti-Semitism is inherently evil. Jewish people are not.
So the word wasn't really developed until the 19th century. That's when it became an official word.
Right.
So I guess my big question is, like, why is this even a thing? Like, why do we pinpoint this one group of people and we're like, this is where we're going to channel all this hatred?
Probably the two most dominant ethnic classes on the planet are Jews and Arabs, Jews and Muslims, both ethnicity and religion. And it's the oldest family feud in history because it goes back to cousins, basically, first cousins.
And who were those first cousins?
Isaac and Ishmael.
Weren't they half brothers?
I don't know what they were.
Okay.
Yes, let's go with that.
Okay.
They were half brothers. I call them cousins. Okay. And the conflict goes that far back. And Ishmael became a nation that is the Arab race, and Isaac became the Jewish race. They're called Semites because that word comes from Shem, one of the sons of Noah, who's
Shem, Ham, and Japheth.
believed to be the direct ascendant, antecedent of the Jewish people. So that's how far back it goes. The Turks built, the Turks in 650 built the Dome of the Rock. It's still there in Jerusalem, 650 AD, after Christ. They built it on the site of the Temple of Solomon.
Right.
And
okay.
so that was a bit of an insult to the Jews. They claim they have Jerusalem. Christians claim they have Jerusalem. Jews claim they have Jerusalem.
Wait, how would Christians have Jerusalem?
They claim it because of Jesus.
Okay.
It's the holy city for 3 different religions.
Right.
And it's in about a 5 square mile area.
Right.
So it's just bound to not go well.
That's a lot of hostility.
That's how far back it goes. And you add the Crusades, you add the taking of Jerusalem by the Turks, and all the years in between, it's a hot mess. And so Arab Palestinians believe they have been mistreated and had their homeland taken from them.
On what grounds?
On the grounds that they were there and Muhammad ascended from Jerusalem. If you're going to go with squatters' rights, the Jews have it. The Jews had it first. Absolutely. But it's a holy city to Muslims, and they don't believe history can be changed. It should be their city. So you've got all this conflict going on over religion and politics and land, and blood, family. It's a bad recipe. So Palestinians believe that Israelites are keeping them from their promise, and they should be extricated any way necessary. Not all Palestinians believe that, but the extreme end, who's bringing war, believes that. That's where this conflict is coming from.
Okay.
It's a hot mess, and it's been that for, every great leader in America has tried to negotiate this thing. There's no peace.
Do you think it's escalating now in 2024, or do you think it's kind of always been at a constant level?
I think after the Holocaust, which was anti-Semitism in its purest form, they're a bad race. They're going to keep whites from becoming supreme. Let's get rid of them. That's what the Holocaust was. And, oh, by the way, it happened, all this revisionist history.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the Holocaust for just a second. So you have Adolf Hitler, who is German, who is white. Why does he fear the Jewish race? Like, he's not Arabic or, like, Israeli. Why does he have any skin in the game.
I don't know all the politics and history of Hitler's thinking. I'm going to go with they're God's chosen people, and he hated God. Jews make great targets because they represent the God of the Old Testament, and they're again, antecedents of Christianity. And so they're easy people to hate. And I think that the scriptures anticipate that on multiple levels. Hitler found them to be problematic and wanted them extricated, wanted them out of the way. And it gave him a chance to, by moving 6 million people from Poland and from Germany and other places, now he can go take more power and more ground. Anyway, I think it's simmered a bit. World War I happened in 1948. After both world wars, Israel becomes a nation again. There's a lot of celebration of that. Some people thought it was a fulfillment of prophecy that Israel's a nation again. And I think the Holocaust bought some time for the Jewish race, but now it's back, and it's back globally.
Yes.
As people see Palestinians as victims, and they saw October 7th as justified, the attack by Hamas on Gaza, they saw it as justified. And it's a hot mess.
So Americans right now, I mean, this is an election year. Americans are extremely vocal about this and extremely divided. I mean, it's almost like every other issue in our nation. It's like there's not a lot of middle ground. It's like you against me. I'm offended if you don't believe the way that I believe. And people are taking sides. And I mean, is it fair to say that the Jewish people are like the most persecuted, like historically,
100%.
of all mankind?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so now enter Americans. And right now we are seeing protests all over the nation at institutions of higher education where it's like anti-Israel. Like if we're refusing to allow Jewish people to come into our establishment. We are refusing to do business with Jewish establishments. Why is America so invested in this issue?
It's a democracy. Israel is a democracy surrounded by theocracies.
And by that you mean?
Nations run by religious caliphate. Okay. I used caliphate in a sentence.
There you
That's
go.
pretty impressive. I have no idea what it means, but it sounded very impressive. You calibrate your car? No.
I don't even know what
anyway,
that. We're just moving forward.
It's a leadership body.
Okay.
Religious leadership body. If you look on the borders of Israel, they're all theocracies, religiously based nations. There's a kingdom in Saudi Arabia, but the rest of them have more of a religious emphasis. And there sits this little democracy controlling all the ports on the Mediterranean. I mean, it's geographically amazing piece of property, and it's in the way of all those access to ports from these other nations. And they'd love to have that democracy become something else. So I think that that's the geopolitical argument, but I also think God said, this is my land. And everything God does, Satan counterfeits and attacks. So there's clearly spiritual reasons going, there's spiritual things going on about Israel. God cares. I mean, he's never said, tell me another country in the scriptures that God says pray for other than Jerusalem, city, by name. Pray for Jerusalem, he says. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It doesn't say Austin, doesn't say D.C., doesn't say Paris. One city. It's God's chosen land with God's chosen people. And it's not us.
Right.
We're all going to get to heaven. It's going to be called Jerusalem. It's going to be called Austin. Or it's not going to be the U.S. of A. And that, I think, has spiritual overtones that draw all kinds of ire from the enemy.
Yeah. Well, and I'm also wondering, because of the political division in America, I mean, it's escalating year by year. So historically, I mean, America was supposed to be a Christian nation, right? Like we're a Christian nation. That's what we were. And so then you
won't get that in school today. You know that, right?
Right. That's what I grew up with.
You can go read those guys' writings, but they still say it wasn't true.
Right.
Revisionists have written that out.
So now we have these
It's on the walls of the memorials that the guys said it, but it's been written out.
So we have these two political parties. We have Democrats, we have Republicans. Historically, Republicans have chosen to side with Israel. And I'm wondering if, because of the polarization, is it because the right sides with Israel that the left is rising up against Israel? Do you think that contributes?
Let me push back on your statement a little bit.
Okay.
I think the extreme left is rising up against Israel. There have been a lot of Democrats that come out in support of Israel.
Right. That's fair, yeah.
Now, there's clearly politics when Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor openly rebukes Bibi Netanyahu and says, we're going to pull our aid back. He can't make that call. But he said this, and so clearly the left wing of that party is pushing hard on, let's go for the Palestinians. We don't like the democracy over there. We don't like the Christianity associated with it. We don't like it. The Republicans are connected to it. But that's a far out branch. I think a lot of Dems even understand the wisdom of having a relationship with Israel for a lot of reasons. And there's probably more bipartisan support than what we're getting in the news on that.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Yeah.
It is vocal. And there's a lot. I would love to go interview some of these kids that are protesting on college campuses, like in the '60s, and say, "Can you tell me the story?
Right. Why?
Can you tell me when the Turks built the Dome of the Rock, and when did David claim Jerusalem as the city of David, and how many years apart was that, or centuries, or millennia? And do you understand why the Hamas moved into Gaza in '05? Do you know that story? I mean, I don't think they know it.
No.
It's just cool.
They don't. But here's the thing, and I'm not going to try to sound all conspiracy theory, but what we have today that they didn't have in the 60s when these protests were going on were social media. Social media, in my opinion, it creates so much more division. The things that people say online, they would never say to another person's face. Or you get punched in the face. Nobody wants to get punched in the face, so they don't say it face to face. They say it online. And then you have all these proven fake identities on social media contributing.
You really are a conspiracy theorist.
That's been proven, contributing to the division and to these arguments. And I feel like they just get in there and they're just like, let's fight. Let's upset each other. No.
Do you believe in Nephilim?
I do.
You do believe in the Nephilim?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Sorry, they made their appearance, so they are.
But they've proven that there are all these fake identities around the country, and even like foreign voices speaking into contributing to this division.
And half the protesters aren't students; they're people paid to go protest.
It's crazy.
I know that part. You're right.
So, I mean, I kind of want to look at like the social media aspect of it, and I don't know. I guess I'm baffled as to why we continue to allow this kind of thing to happen in our country.
It's called free speech.
Yeah.
It's called we are standing on the shoulders of people who died to give us that protection that we can say whatever we want to say, no matter how offensive it is. And that's under attack as well.
Yeah. But it's also, we're not even saying truth. I feel like free speech, I mean, does that give you that's permissible to lie? Yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Right.
Or to just be wrong.
So let's talk about people who have an anti-Semitic attitude or way of life. In your opinion, can Christians be anti-Semitic?
How strong of an answer do you want me to give on this?
I want a strong answer.
We may need a 7-second delay on this. Absolutely not. Let me just give you two reasons. One, they're ours. We came from them. We are completed Jews. We are Christians who follow a Jewish leader, Jesus, who founded our movement and gave his life to redeem us. God created the Jewish people from nothing, tapped Abraham on the shoulder and said, let's go, how about we go start a nation and change history? And Abraham says, okay. And they literally came from nothing and became this great nation that's still around today. And he picked a land for them, and he said, through you, I'm going to bless all the nations of the earth. That's the promise of Christ, Genesis chapter 12. And he did. So number one, Christians, we don't have a heritage. We don't have Christianity without the Jewish faith, the first 39 books of our Bible. We are inherently Jewish in our religion, number one.
Yeah, because we don't just read the New Testament. We take the whole thing.
We came from the promises of Israel and the promises to us. And it's like, you can't divorce that. Number two, we don't get to hate anybody.
Right, because we can't hate the other side either.
We can't hate Hamas. We can't hate the Palestinians. We can't hate people whose politics are different from ours, and we sure can't hate Jews. And we can't pray for people to get hurt, no matter how much we dislike them. And there's a lot. The chance of they're going out on these campuses to say, like, go back to Poland, are just cruel to these Jewish students who are hearing them, because they had grandparents who died in those concentration camps, in Germany and other places. Anyway, so two reasons: they're our ancestors, and number one, number two, we don't get to hate. Right. We get to love. We're the lovers. We get to love and be peacemakers by speaking truth and love. But we would never call for someone's extinction. If you're a Christian and you're doing that, you need to check your papers on Christianity, because you're way out of line.
So a lot of Americans identify as Christian. A lot of people around the world identify as Christian. And you just said we're called to love. We're called to be peacemakers. that is not what we're experiencing as a whole right now. What are Christians supposed to do in this intense political global environment where there's this
That's a
lifelong
great question.
conflict?
The thermostat of every nation has never been a government. The thermostat of every nation is the church. So as it is not as your government goes, so goes your nation. It's as the church goes, so goes your nation. So pray for the church.
Mm-hmm.
Pray for the church to be loving, to do justice, to be truth tellers. We can't be silent against the things that are going on. We need to call out. If you look at things like slavery and other big issues that have been dealt with in history, Christians called them out and said, that's not okay. You can't do that. We need to be doing that now. Secondly, we need to show people what Christianity is, not what it's not. We're really big into pointing out what Christianity is not.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have to do that if you just model what Christianity
Right.
is.
We don't stand for this or this or this. So
Yeah.
what do you
So
stand
you don't,
for?
you know, the old rule is you don't, when you're FBI and you're looking at counterfeit dollar bills, you don't study counterfeit, you study the originals. You study the dollar bills, know what they look like, and know their markings, and you can recognize a counterfeit in a hurry.
Mm.
We're all about pointing out the counterfeits. We don't have many examples of originals. So I think, number one, we need to pray for the church to be healthy all across the globe, but especially in our country. Not to be political, not to be financially driven or pragmatic. Speak truth in love, and then be salt and light, like Jesus said we're supposed to be, and rally. If injustice is going on, we need to speak about injustice. And right now, there's injustice going on to Jewish people. We shouldn't be silent on that.
But do you think the Christians or the church should be involved in this ongoing just arguing? Like when you say like call out injustice, I feel like there's some people I'm related to some of them that believe like let's go on Facebook and let's start telling people like this is wrong, this is right, and it kind of seems fruitless. It just adds fuel to the fire and engages further dissension from one another. I don't know how you call out injustice, but also try to be a peacemaker.
Peacemakers tell the truth in love and let chips fall. I don't know that you can tell the truth in love on social media. I'm not on it. I feel like people get on social media to make themselves feel better. You're not going to persuade anybody. There's no real listening going on social media. There's a lot of talking.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to have conversations in settings over coffee, over dinners, over neighborhoods, where we can really have meaningful conversations.
So it's like grassroots.
Respect each other. Yeah, I don't think social media is going to be the place where it happens. I do it for me. It's a bully pulpit, and it makes me feel better. I'm not going to change somebody's heart. It's going to have to be done in settings where we can be loving and say, do you know the story? Do you know the history? No offense against the Palestinians, but the Jews were there first by 1,000 years. By 1,600 years, the Jews were there first. And if anybody's got a right to that land, they do. I'm not Jewish. If anybody's got a right to that land, they do. We're not going to unearth all the trouble that's there. It's, as you know, centuries of family feuding. But we can be rational and loving and care about the people on both sides that are being affected. Because it's war and people are dying.
Yeah. Innocent people are dying.
Yeah, on both sides. And that is, we need to have compassion for that.
Well, and I feel like I kind of wish that somebody on either political side would come out and acknowledge it's heartbreaking for both sides right now, because people tend to come out and be like, no, like too bad for those guys. We support these guys. And if somebody could just come out and be a voice of reason and just say, like, this is tragedy. This is tragedy unfolding. We need to love both sides. It's just weird that you don't hear anybody saying that.
There's still families who haven't seen their loved ones since October 7th.
Yeah.
And don't know if they're alive or not.
Right.
You're right, because it can be, politics, friends, can never win the day. When you start making decisions based on politics and pragmatism, you're going to make bad decisions. And so if I can't say something because it has political implications, then I'm too afraid of politics. We got to let truth be truth and not worry about how it looks politically. And I think people on both sides of the aisle have to weigh what they're going to say in light of the political environment and the costs of that. And that's not, Jesus didn't do that. You can't let the politics drive what you say. You've got to let truth drive what you say and say it in love. And if it doesn't line up politically, it doesn't line up politically.
Yeah.
Because there's not going to be Democrats or Republicans in heaven.
Right.
Democrats and Republicans are going to be in heaven. Let me make sure I said it correctly.
But they
They're
will not
all canceled
identify
out. They will not
as
identify as a Democrat or
Democrats and
Republican.
Republicans
Yes.
in
Send all
heaven.
emails to Lauren at
Nope,
ACFL.
not me. Okay. Well, we're running out of time.
We're actually
now.
ahead of schedule. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do want to say thank you for speaking into this. This is a hard issue.
It's so
this
hard.
is heartbreaking. Like when my son hears all these conversations going around, and he's in 6th grade, and he's like, "Why do people hate Jewish people so much?" And I'm just like, part of me was like, I really don't personally. I don't get it. So I've had to learn some of the history, but even then, it's hard to justify this hatred. And I don't want to say everybody, I don't want to just say it's evil, because I also still want to love the people on the other side.
Yeah.
So I don't want to point my fingers and be like, you're evil. So it's a hard issue. I wrestle with it.
Do your homework, guys, because there's blatant lying going on both sides about this thing, about the war, about the hostages, about who's doing what to whom. There are talking points being read by both sides, none of which are true.
Mm-hmm.
So be disciplined enough to get past the initial Google pop-ups when you're looking for news. Do a little deeper dive and try to figure out what's really going on, because nobody's winning. It's a war. Nobody wins a war. Israel was attacked. Israel's an independent nation. They have every right to defend themselves. And I don't think we have a right to tell them not to, but politics says we do.
Right.
So that's why it gets
That's
messy.
hard.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you for,
thanks,
you know
Lauren.
a lot about this.
Shocking,
Sometimes
I
you
know.
really surprise me with
Shocking
all
every
your
week.
knowledge.
Shocking, I know.
Well, thank you guys so much for sending us these questions. We realize this is a very relevant issue right now. So please continue to send us your topics at acfellowship.org/podcast. And we will look forward to seeing you guys next time.